Hi, welcome to History 1301. This is U.S. history up to 1877. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez, and I will be your instructor for this class this summer term. So what we're going to be doing in this recorded video session is to go over the syllabus. The syllabus has been uploaded, has been available on Blackboard for the past 10 days or so. And if you have gotten the chance to visit the Blackboard site and read the syllabus, you are going to find this video presentation even more informative because I'm going to go over this document in very great detail and explain everything that you need to know about this course, how to prepare for this class, what to expect in terms of the method of instruction, what are the requirements in terms of the textbook, and so on, how exams are going to be formatted, how you can prepare for them as well. And we're going to also look at extra credit assignments and one major course assignment that is due at the end of the term. And again, it's really a report that you must submit. We're going to talk about that. We're going to also discuss grade distribution, how I grade at the end of the term, the factors that I take into account and the like, and some tentative also calendar dates as well in terms of the due dates for the exams and the report and the like. Again, so consider this as the very first day of class. This is when you meet the instructor, and the instructor is going to pretty much explain everything you need to know for you to not only be able to pass this class, but also to excel in this class as well. Okay? All right. So now, having said that, let us now look at the Blackboard page. This is the main site that we're going to be using. This is the main platform, in other words, for this course. This is where you're going to receive the instruction and also where you're going to be uploading the exams and the report as well. And so if you've noticed, again, in the left-hand part of the Blackboard page, there's a column full of links. This is the main menu that has the most important links. And when I built the class, I made sure to put those links into different, let us just say, areas. Okay, the first area, the topmost part, contains the syllabus, as you can see, and also the college policies and student support services. So, all the rules, the regulations, and so on are stated there, including the information of very important departments of the college whenever you want to receive assistance for technical support, library, accessibility services, and the like. All of that is stated there. Okay. Again, so what we're going to be doing here in this very first section is to go over the syllabus. And as we're going to be doing that, we're going to be making reference, of course, to the other links of the other sections, like the course content, and also where you're supposed to submit the work. Again, it's going to make reference to that. We're going to be going back to that again from time to time. So let us click on this link titled Syllabus, and it takes you to a page. So I build a syllabus page, which also provides to you a file. It's a Word document. It's a file. I mean, you want to download the syllabus and keep it, handy in your computer, or maybe print it, etc. Again, you can actually click on here, and it's going to give you the Word doc file again for the syllabus. But here, it is very accessible because now you can just start reading this document. This is one of the most important, if not the most important document of this course. It explains everything you need to know. It answers most of the questions that students have even during the semester or during the summer term, to the point that what I've discovered is that in many cases when students ask me questions regarding exams or assignments and so on, in many cases, not all, those questions can actually be answered by just referring to the syllabus. But if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, if you send me an email, of course, I will be responding to you to clarify those. Now, let's start from the very top. This is U.S. history. This is the first part of U.S. history, 1301, that looks at U.S. history from the ancient world all the way to 1877. Again, that's where our course stops. This is the second week of the summer session that spans from July the 1st to August the 4th. Once again, my name is Alfonso R. Lopez. And the way to reach me, this is the easiest and fastest way to reach me, is via email. You can see my name stated there again, alfonso.lopez@austincc.edu. I'm checking my email several times a day. So Monday through Friday, more than likely, again, my policy is Monday through Friday, you'll be receiving a response from me within a 24-hour period. Okay. In many cases, the same day, but it's a 24-hour period. But during the weekends, it's a 48-hour period. So let's just say you send an email, let's just say Saturday morning or afternoon, you'll be receiving a response from me early Monday morning. Okay. Only during the weekends, again, that I might or might not respond within a 24-hour period. All right. So now, according to ACC policy, please be advised that all electronic communication between faculty and students must be conducted through the official college supplied systems, meaning that if you're sending an email from your private account, according to ACC policy, I'm not going to reply to that private email account. So if you want a quick and prompt response from me for any question regarding exams and assignments and so on, grading, please use your ACC email account and I will respond again as soon as possible. All right. So in terms of the requirements, let's talk about textbook here. Okay. There's only one requirement, and that is students are required to obtain a text that is titled Reading American Horizons, Primary Sources for U.S. History in a Global Context. Make sure you're buying volume 1, because this is History 1301, the first section. Okay? And also make sure you're purchasing the 4th edition. Now, let me explain why you're going to need this book. This is not really a textbook in the conventional sense, in that you're going to read about U.S. history from cover to cover, a historical narrative of historical events. But rather, this is really a collection of historical documents, what's called primary sources, like letters, memoirs, laws, statements, and so on, that were produced by very important and influential historical actors themselves. You might be asking, why are we going to need this book or this collection of documents? Well, you're going to need this collection of documents in order to complete an assignment that is due towards the end of the term. I believe it's July the 29th. Okay, so you're not going to need this textbook to follow up on the lectures and to be reading along the material and so on, but rather this is only to complete the report for this course. It's a major assignment that is going to be worth 25% of your final grade. So it's very, very important. that you complete this assignment. Now, I said, please make sure to get volume 1 because this is the first part of U.S. history, but also the 4th edition. Because the documents that I've selected from this textbook are only available in the 4th edition. Earlier editions do not have the same documents. So I've noticed that students from time to time, they buy the 3rd or 2nd edition only to find out that the documents of the report are not available in those editions. Okay, so make sure you're getting the 4th edition. As far as I know, the bookstore that carries this textbook is the ACC Highland Campus Bookstore. Okay, that's the one I know for sure, for certain. So please give them a call before you drive over there, because you want to make sure that they have available copies. And having said that, let me also inform you that the bookstores usually send back unsold copies back to the vendor, let's say at the midpoint of the term, believing that students who did not buy the book initially within the first week or 10 days are not going to buy the book anymore from them, that they maybe obtained the book from another vendor or so on. So they pretty much return the unsold copies, back to the vendor. So when students wait long enough, let us just say if you wait until the midpoint, let us just say mid-July, and say, well, I'm just going to go drive all the way to the Highland campus to buy it, you're going to find out that maybe there will be no available copies by then. Okay, so if I were you, I would try buying this book as quickly as possible within the next 5, maybe the next 7 days or so. Okay, try to get a hold of this book and try to start working on those documents slowly and gradually. So by July 29th, it will be ready for submission. Okay, remember, it's 25% of your final grade. I'll be talking more about that once we get into that section. Now, in terms of the format, this is an online course which is presented in an asynchronous fashion or format, which means that there will be no designated class meetings for real-time instruction, like hybrid courses or synchronous courses. Again, students have a very flexible format to work with here because they can tailor their schedule according to their work or family responsibilities and duties, and review the material in their own time. Now, having said that, please be advised that despite the flexibility of this format, it is important to keep a certain pace and rhythm and not leave everything towards the end. In other words, don't accumulate all of the material that you need to review towards the end, because this is going to be just monumental. Trying to catch up with all of the material again in order to submit all the exams and the assignments towards the end, again, is going to be really a monumental task. Okay, so try to reserve some time day by day or every other day, but try to really discipline yourself again in to go over this work. All right, so in terms of the course description, again, this is U.S. history up to 1877. This is the first part of U.S. history that ventures from really, let me just say, ancient history, even prehistorical times. Really, we're taking a glance at ancient or even prehistoric times, again, before written history, that is to say, all the way to 1877, and we're going to cover everything in between. Again, so it's a really long period of time that we're going to be assessing, which is a greater, if you will, time period than History 1302, which looks at U.S. history since 1877. So again, there's no comparison in terms of the time frame. So what we're going to be doing in this course is to cover the most important, the most influential events that transformed and shaped the development of American culture and society. And in order to do that, let me just scroll all the way to this part of the syllabus where you can see a kind of table of contents that shows you three main parts. Those are the three main historical eras. I have divided this long time period from prehistory, let us just say, to 1877 into three main historical eras. And within those three historical eras, I have presented to you three topics. So all of this material I have organized around themes or topics. So there's a thematic organization, meaning that what you're going to be learning in this class is not really just random information that jumps from one point of history to another, but rather it just looks exclusively at one single, let us just say, topic or area in time and tries to break it down and assess and analyze it as fully as possible. The first historical era, I call it the ancient world, from the ancient world to the age of discovery. Okay, so we're looking at kind of like the formative period of American history. Really looks at ancient societies, ancient civilizations, if you will, that contributed to the formation of the United States all the way to the age of discovery. We're going to examine three topics or themes regarding this historical period, and we start with the Native American world. Okay, so we start with Native Americans, and like I said, again, that entails looking at prehistory, the origins not only of the Native American groups, but the origins of humanity at large. We're going to be doing that. The origins of humanity, the migrations of humans across the globe, eventually how human populations entered the American continent. There will be mass migrations into the American continent, and they're going to be the forerunners of the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Okay, how they settled across the continent of America and how they developed their unique cultures, their unique societies, and eventually their civilizations, again, in the American continent, up to 1492. 1492 is really a critical year because this is the discovery of America by Europeans, when Columbus arrives, in other words. So we're looking everything before Columbus, in other words, up to 1492. We're looking at history, culture, and religion. You're going to be learning, quite extensively about the Native American world, the major civilizations, the peoples that inhabited North America, and so on. So you'll have a very good idea, the kinds of cultures, the kinds of civilizations that flourished in this continent that are going to be critical for shaping U.S. history. The second topic looks at the European background. So just like we look at the Native American background, in the second topic we look at the European background. Okay, the European context, the European world. We look at the mother cultures of Europe. We look very briefly at ancient Greece, ancient Rome. And after looking at Greece and Rome, we look at the Middle Ages and the period where we find, for example, the Christian church becoming the dominant political institution in Europe, dominating almost every aspect of European society, whether that was religion as well as education and politics and economics and the like. We look at that. And then finally, we look at the process by which, by the 12 and 1300s, the Europeans are beginning to end that era called the Middle Ages, and they're beginning to move into the outside, beginning what is called the Age of Discovery. How Europeans began to move into the outside. We're going to look at particularly the forces that push Europeans out of Europe, that propelled this Age of Discovery. And that force is an economic force that centered on the development of long distance trade. So again, trade is going to be really the engine of change for Europe and for the world at large. Trade, the development of long distance trade networks, the trading of silks and spices and gold and tea and so on. This is going to start really connecting different areas of the world. Europeans are now reaching out to the Middle East, to the Far East, China, India, and also moving into parts of North Africa, the Mediterranean basin, and so on. And this process eventually is going to lead to the Age of Discovery. Europeans are going to be moving into the outside, developing navigation systems, cargo ships, and so on, to sail around the world in order to enhance the pace of trade. And that led to other discoveries, like the discovery of the New World by Columbus in 1492. So even the discovery of America was largely motivated by the Age of Discovery, as it is called. After the America was discovered, Europeans are going to come into this new world in great numbers in order to explore it and eventually to settle and colonize it again. So this process is also motivated by trade as well. Why Europeans are arriving at great numbers into the New World had to do with, again, trade. They were looking for gold, they were looking for silver and natural resources that they could exploit, mine, extract in order to trade around the world for gold and silver again. And this is going to be a great push factor, pushing Europeans into this new world. And that led not only to exploration and settlement, but also conquest. The Spaniards are going to embark upon a massive conquest of the two major empires of the Americas, the Aztecs of Central Mexico and the Incas of South America. So we're also going to examine, again, the conquest as well, the Spanish conquest here. So again, we're looking in the second topic at the European background, looking at the emergence of European civilization, but also the process by which Europeans are moving into the outside and making a series of discoveries like America, and the process of integrating the American continent into the European system as well. Again, so the American continent will be an extension of Europe from an economic perspective. The resources, the wealth of America will be transferred into Europe, and this is going to lead to the rise of Europe, again, to the world stage, the rise of the trading empires like the Spanish, Portuguese, French, Dutch, British. So again, this is really reshaping the world. This is what we're going to be looking at in the second topic. The third topic, we're going to look at another push factor that drove Europeans out of Europe to move into America. And this factor is not going to look at economics, but rather religion. That there's another force pushing Europeans out of Europe to colonize and settle America, and that is religion. The Christian church entered into a major crisis in the 16th century when a group of reformers, starting with Martin Luther, decided to leave the church, the Roman Catholic Church, in protest, believing that it required significant changes in their interpretations of the teachings of Christ and doctrine and rituals and so on. And they wanted to really reform Christianity. So we see the Protestant Reformation, the division of the Christian world in Europe between Catholics and Protestants that led to persecution. Both are waging war against each other. And that was a push factor for many Europeans, particularly in England, to come into North America to settle and form a series of colonies like Plymouth, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania, among others. So we're going to see, again, colonization by England of North America, mainly by religious exiles, religious communities. Again, this is what we're going to be doing again in the third topic. The second historical period is going to look at the colonial period itself. And in the colonial period, this is now we're looking at the colonial world. That is to say, now the colonies are somewhat established, and we're going to look at the development of colonial society. I have presented three main topics that are going to explain how the colonies are going to be shaped and why they're going to be shaped in the way that they did, by looking at, first and foremost, at the slave trade, the introduction of the slave trade and slavery into some of the British colonies of North America, particularly the lower colonies, again, that are going to be plantation colonies. The British decided that the lower or southern colonies were going to be agricultural companies producing cash crops for the British Empire. And again, we're going to see the introduction of a system of labor. It's called slavery, African slavery. That is going to be the dominant form of labor for the South. So we're going to look at the emergence of the slave trade in the ancient world. We're going to look at slavery in Africa. We're also going to be looking at slavery in Europe. We're going to be making comparisons, of course, of different slave societies and slave systems and so on. And we're going to make a comparison for the kind of slavery that is going to arise in the American continent, which is going to be very different and very distinct from the kind of slavery that was practiced elsewhere. There's significant differences. So we're going to be looking at comparative analysis, in other words, in this topic, looking at slave societies and comparing them, but also understanding the kind of slavery that flourished, again, in the American continent, particularly in the British colonies. The fifth topic is going to look at colonial society in transition. We're going to be examining change in this topic. What caused the colonies to change, the religious communities, the religious colonies, why they became less and less centered on religious values and religious ideas and religious practices, and how they are becoming more and more centered on materialism and the idea of living in a world that demanded, if you will, more and more attention in the here, in the now. People began to see that this world, the physical world that surrounds us, was also important, and that we needed to develop it, that we needed to progress, and so on in this world. So again, we're going to be looking at that, and of course, how people responded to those changes. How there was an attempt to, let's just say, force people to stay in a very conservative environment. We're going to see the attempt to pressure people to conform to religious norms by persecuting them. We're going to see witch hunts, for example, in Salem, Massachusetts, this famous Salem witch trials, as they were called. That was the attempt, once again, to punish and persecute people that were falling out of line, if you will, from the Puritan norms and so on. There was an attempt to do that, but also the attempt to revive religion in the colonial world. It's called a revival movement, the First Great Awakening. That was a more proactive, more positive way to try to inspire people to go back to church and take God and the soul and spiritual matters more and more seriously. Again, we're going to be looking at that. The attempt to convert the non-Christian populations like the Native Americans. That was part of the First Great Awakening, and also try to convert the African slaves as well. So we're going to be looking at all those changes, again, that were taking place in the colonies, again, in the fifth topic. The last topic is going to look at the end of the colonial era, and that is the American Revolution. We're going to be looking at the causes of the revolution, dealing with economic factors rooted in British policies for controlling the trade in the colonies, or taxing the colonies in their trade and so on, their imports and exports, but also the ideas of the revolution. We're going to see the formation of new political ideas written in the 1700s, mainly by European philosophers, that were presenting a vision for a new society, a more democratic society in which people, the masses in this case, were going to live in a democratic system in which people were going to be electing their leaders, their representatives, again, through a system of elections. And the purpose of those elected leaders was to serve the interests of the masses and protect their rights as well. So the introduction of, again, rights, what's called civil rights or natural rights, human rights, is also going to be central for the causes for the American Revolution. And we're going to be looking at that quite thoroughly. The last historical era we're going to look at is the national period, all the way to the Civil War, the moment when the 13 colonies gained independence and they formed now a new political entity called the United States, and the attempt to create a stable political system, a state or a government, that is to say. So we're going to see how there were trials and errors in terms of the different constitutions that were written in the United States to finally give shape to the country that was created by the framers of the Constitution of 1787. They created, again, a republic. And we're going to look at some of the challenges that this new republic faced in the initial years of its existence. The country was created, it was already independent. The framers created a representative form of government with a system of elections and 3 branches of government, etc. We're going to be looking at all that. But once the country was created, we're going to see that the country faced significant challenges. One of the challenges was create national identity, bring people together in order to create an identity based on this idea of the United States as a country that represented all people, regardless of the state, the community, the locality where you lived. That was really problematic, particularly in a time when political parties were arising. So again, we're going to see the emergence of the two-party system, political parties that are trying to compete for different visions for the future of the United States. And again, that kind of divided the country. We're going to take a look at all of that. The 8th topic is going to look at the Industrial Revolution. Industrialization is going to take place in the Northeast. The country is rapidly industrializing again, and is transforming American society in very important ways. Industries, factories are arising in the Northeast, and Americans are moving into the city now. From the countryside, American farmers are becoming city dwellers, and they're taking on factory jobs. That was an important change for them. They're now earning their living through the payment of wages. That's another very important change. We see the beginning of the railroad, for instance, the railroad revolution, transportation systems and the like, up north. In the South, we're not going to see industrialization. The South is going to expand their plantation economy, their plantation system, in order to supply the industries up north and in Europe for the cotton that they needed. So we're going to see that the South is going to become really frozen in time in terms of development. There will be no development in terms of massive industrialization or railroad development and the like. Instead, we see more and more plantations being generated, and of course, the expansion of slavery that comes with it as well. That set off a series of reactions in the United States. Americans really were trying to cope with those changes, and we're going to assess in this topic how Americans were responding to both the Industrial Revolution taking place up north, and also the expansion of slavery in the South. Again, last but not least, this class ends with the Civil War and Reconstruction. Again, that the country is going to become increasingly divided between an industrialized North and an agricultural South, each operating very differently in different regions, and those systems competed with one another on the national stage, or trying to compete economically and politically as to which region is going to be dominant. Again, who's going to exert more dominance, more influence in the national stage, in national politics. That led to a rupture in 1860 in the Union and a war between the states. The North and the South went to war. We're going to examine that very thoroughly, and the process of Reconstruction. After the war, when the South was ultimately defeated, we're going to see the process by which the North was attempting to reform and transform the South before reunifying the country once again. So we're going to see the end of slavery, for instance, granting citizenship to millions of free populations, and also the attempt to integrate them into the political process, the right to vote as well. Okay, so again, this is what we're going to be covering across the term. Now, before I talk about the exams, again, this is the following segment here. It is important that you understand that the way you're going to be learning this material that I just synthesized, I pretty much synthesized the entire course in the past half an hour or so, is that I have recorded my lectures that are organized thematically. In other words, my lectures are not organized randomly. I don't just lecture one day about Native Americans and then the following lecture I jump into the Civil War and I go back and forth, but rather it's thematic. And I've recorded my lectures. They're already available on Blackboard. You're asking where are those lectures located. Again, you can go back again to this menu column, course content, instructional materials. You're going to be presented with two folders. The upper folder has all the video lectures for those topics. The bottom lecture is the folder. The bottom folder contains all the lecture outlines. So when I'm lecturing, you'll notice that you're able to see me speak, and I'm going to present an outline. Again, I'm using exactly the same software that I'm using here to record this presentation. So you'll be able to see the document, and I have bullet points, keywords, the names of the people that we're talking about and describing. I'll present you with maps and pictures and the like that are relevant to the discussion. And at the very end of the document, you'll see a series of questions. Those are the study questions. They're for you to study. In other words, once we're through with the topic, let us just say the Native Americans, at the end of the topic, you'll see that, he has like 4 questions regarding this topic, because those are the questions for the topic that will appear in the exam. So you'll know exactly what questions are going to be asked about that topic. Again, so that's at the very end of each document, at the end of each outline, that is to say. Now, in terms of the recorded video lectures, when you click on it, you'll see 9 folders. Those are the 9 folders that correspond to the 9 topics that I just described a moment ago. Okay, one by one. You click on, let's say you start with number 1, Native American history, in other words, okay, the history of the Native Americans, and you're going to see there 3 video lectures. 3 sessions. And they span for about an hour and 20 minutes each, give and take. That's the average, more or less. Okay, so your responsibility is to watch those lectures and take notes as thoroughly as possible, as you were in class, in other words, because that material is going to be critical for the exams. The exams are going to be based exclusively 100% on the lectures and nothing else. So you don't need to worry about, following readings and articles or chapters of any kind. If you want to pass and excel in this class, all you need to be worried about is just watching, again, the video lectures and take notes. Okay? So this is your responsibility, day by day, week by week, watch those lectures in that order, starting with folder number 1, then folder number 2, and so on, one by one. Now, let us go back to the syllabus here. There will be 3 exams for this course. We have an exam every time we cover one historical era. In other words, when we go over 3 topics, the first 3 topics, then we have the first exam. Then we move into the colonial period. We cover the topic 4, 5, and 6. And then we have the second exam. And then we move into the national period. And then we cover topics 7, 8, and 9. And then we have the final exam. So the question is how the exams are going to be formatted. Okay, so first and foremost, the exams are not going to be timed. Again, they're not going to take place on a specific day and time. They're not limited, again, in that regard, but rather it's more like a writing assignment. So you're given really about 10 days, give and take, to complete the exam. Let's say the first exam. So from now on, all the way to the July the 10th, you have about 10 days to watch those videos and start working on the exam. You do that on your own. Again, so this is more like a writing assignment. So the format of the exam is that it consists of 2 main parts. So let me give you really just a quick, example. You go to the first exam, you click on this. You'll see that it has 2 parts, and that is part 1, the topic section, requires students to select one topic out of 2. It's either the Native Americans or the European topic. Just choose one and answer each question in that order as fully as possible. So you write part 1, and then you write the title of the topic that you selected, and then follow a question and answer format. You write the question and then the answer as fully as possible. And I mean fully as possible. So if you choose, let us just say, the Native American topic, that's the one you really, were inspired by and so on. You wanted to learn about that and so on. Okay, you watch those 3 videos, you take notes, and you answer each question. There are 4 questions for that topic. So when I'm asking you, for example, okay, let me just say in the second question, describe in great detail the different historical stages Native American groups have gone through, mainly hunter-gatherer, horticulture, and agriculture. Explain the major cultural and religious features that emerged during each one of those phases. So be very thorough. Okay, we start with the hunter-gatherer stage. Hunter and gatherers, again, we're looking at, thousands and thousands of years of development. You explain how they lived. how Native Americans worked in small bands of people, were nomadic, moving from place to place, not settled in any given place, how they survived from hunting and gathering plants. There was a division of labor between men and women, and so on. I talk about all of that, and I talk about the religion that flourished during that time, called animism. This idea that, nature is animated by spirits, everything had a spirit, everything, every aspect of nature, even the clouds and the mountains and the trees and the plants and the animals, everything had a spirit. But the animals were worshipped as their gods. And I explained a multiplicity of different rituals that they conducted during this phase for the animals. What kind of rituals they performed? Why were they important to them? How they believed this is going to help them, again, in the world that they lived in, and so on. So I want you to be very descriptive. Don't leave everything or anything out. Don't leave details out, because this is the only way I can measure, again, your learning in this class. That you have watched the videos, you have actually, analyzed this material, and you're able to explain that material to me in your own words. So don't assume that you're writing to the instructor. When you're writing, assume that you're writing to an audience that has no clue what you're talking about, that has no clue of history. So the more you explain, the more you elaborate, the higher your points are going to be. Again, so that's very, very critical. Again, when you're actually answering the questions, again, don't stop short. In other words, try to go the extra mile. That's for 70 points. Now, part 2, 30 points, that requires students to look at the third topic of the semester, and that is the topic on religion. Okay, so all students must do topic number 3, whereas for the first topic, students are only required to review the material of just one topic, either topic number 1 or topic number 2. So what that means is that although you're supposed to watch all of the videos, let us say topic number 1, 2, and 3, in reality, what the exam is telling you is that for topic number 1, you're only here addressing one topic. So again, if you do the math, you realize that you're just watching, of course, the videos for 2 topics per exam, in other words. Okay? But for part 2, once again, all students are required to review the topic on religion. Okay? Review it. I've extracted 6 themes out of that topic, and you're choosing 3 to really elaborate. So you're supposed to really not just identify. This is not a term where you're just supposed to just identify. You're supposed to describe and explain very, very fully. And I mean very, very fully. There's a lot to be said, let us say, about Christianity and the Catholic Church. The emergence of Christianity with Christ. I talk about that. The teachings of Christ, and how the teachings of Christ were disseminated across the Roman Empire by the apostles, and how the Romans persecuted Christians. But eventually, over time, the Roman state, the Roman emperors converted to Christianity and founded the Christian Church in Rome, the Catholic Church, and how the Catholic Church reinterpreted the teachings of Christ in a new light, in a new way, and they were also responsible for spreading Christianity across Europe. So you must explain all of that again. So it's not that, Christianity, the Catholic Church, and then you write a couple of lines or a small paragraph and then expect that you're going to gain all the points. But rather, this is something that you must really explain as fully as possible, okay, for 30 points. Now, there's other things I want to mention here, and there's really critical. And please pay attention here, because this is going to save you a lot of troubles and headaches and the like. And that is, this is a writing assignment. Again, you're going to have the notes available to you and the videos available. This is not a timed, exercise. So the only condition that I'm actually providing here is that you're only allowed to answer the questions and the themes of part 1 and part 2 to derive the responses exclusively from the lecture material. In other words, you can only use the material presented in the lectures to answer the exam. Refrain from using any kind of outside source, okay? Whether we're talking about internet or encyclopedias, books, and articles, again, doesn't matter. Any kind of outside source is totally prohibited, in the exam. You might be asking, why is that? Why can I just, maybe use any other source? And that is because this is an online course that requires students to review certain material that the instructor is presenting to you. Okay, so in this case, I have assembled 9 topics for you to review, and the material that I used to construct the lectures do not come from a single source. They come from a multiplicity of different sources. Many books I've read over many years, going back to my academic studies all the way to the present and so on, documentaries and articles I've read and so on, and I've synthesized all this information, and I have presented, of course, a lot of analysis in that as well. So the only way I can measure that you have been attending class, that you have been present, in other words, in this course, receiving the instruction, the material that I have assembled for you, is that you're able to show in the exam that you have reviewed this material, that you're actually responding to the questions and the themes of the exam by, once again, using the ideas, the concept, the events that I explained. Now, the other reason is that, look, we're living in the age of AI. So when students say, well, I use outside sources and, I responded to the questions by conducting research in other areas, I really don't know. Again, whether this research was conducted, by you or by AI, because again, you can just tell AI to, type a document. You tell them, about a certain subject, and you can pretty much in a couple of minutes have a whole document written for you. So right now, instructors are having a lot of difficulties really distinguishing works that are submitted by students from actual works that are produced by the students from works that were produced by others, whether it was by the help of other people or by the help of new technologies, in other words. So to avoid all of that, I want you to only use the material that I present in those videos, if you will, that are only available in those videos. They're not available online, by the way. Okay? So that's very important. And the other issue that I've had, of course, with students in the past is that in many cases what they do is that they use software to transcribe my notes. They use a transcription software. They transcribe everything I'm saying word for word, and they submit my lectures. And those are actually transcriptions. And I'm actually hearing my voice. I'm not really hearing the voice of the student. I'm actually hearing my own voice in the writing. So that's not going to work either, because that implied that the student just left the computer running to do the work, and all they did is just maybe they just move some things around or whatever, and they just submitted that work. That's not going to work either. So I need to see an organic work. I have to see that you are the one that is responding, that is analyzing, that is writing this document. In other words, this is what I'm asking you to do, to avoid, having to disqualify your work. So you might start reading in your exam, something that I did not say, I did not lecture, something that you gathered from an outside, or my transcription, your work will be disqualified, in other words. So try to avoid that and instead just concentrate on, again, the video lectures. Okay? Your work must be saved either on Word software, Word doc, or PDF file, and upload it here. This is the submit work. This is where you're going to be submitting your first, second, final exam, the report, and if you're doing the extra credits, again, you're submitting the extra credits right here in this link. Those are the only applications that can be opened by Blackboard, by the way. So if you're saving your work on Google Docs or Pages, etc., Blackboard will not be able to open those documents. Okay. All right. So let us go back to now the syllabus. Now, I talked about extra credit assignments. I have posted a folder that contains 3 extra credit assignments. You say, where is it? Okay, so under course content, again, there's a link titled course assignments. You can see first, second, final exams. Again, all the assignments are here, study questions report. And at the very end, you'll see a folder titled extra credit assignments. You click on it and you'll see 3 folders. Each folder has an article for you to read and the instructions for completing the assignment, meaning it's going to tell you to read the article and a series of questions for you to answer. 3 or 4 pages, double space, and you save it on Word. And if you're submitting more than one extra credit assignment, please note that all the extra credit assignments must be saved in a single document, separated by headings, of course. And if you're submitting 3 extra credit assignments, everything has to be saved in a single document and submitted as a single file. Again, here it says extra credits in submit work. Again, you can add up to 10 points to each exam. So again, each extra credit assignment can add up to 10 points to each exam. So this is a wonderful opportunity for you to improve your grades significantly, I should say. It's a whole letter grade you can add. Everybody's entitled, regardless of your grade standing. Those are not mandatory. Those are optional. You can do 1, 2, or 3. Doesn't matter. Again, it's not required that you have to do all 3. So again, it's just optional, if you will. Okay. Now, before we move into the actual course assignment, the report, there's a technical piece of information here. I should remind you that you have until July the 29th to withdraw from this course. If for some reason you cannot continue with this course because there's just, let me just say critical circumstances, health related, family related, etc., personal, doesn't matter. Again, and they're totally out of your control. I totally understand. Again, I respect your decision, but if you're gonna withdraw because you're just falling behind and you think maybe you can finish this course, but maybe you need an extension or so, please let me know. In other words, before making a final decision, if you feel that you can finish this course and you're willing to do the work, but you're struggling, please talk to me before, again, you make that final decision. And we can work out an arrangement of sorts. Okay? So, now, as I mentioned, there's an assignment due at the end of the course. Is a report. It's a study questions report. This is where the textbook comes in. Why you need the textbook? Well, to complete this assignment, which is 25% of your final grade, by the way. Again, so it's a very, very important assignment. I've selected 10 documents for you to read. They're a very short read. And your responsibility is to answer a series of questions regarding the content, the ideas of those documents. The guidelines are stated here in the syllabus, and the format is as follows. So when you start, you create a cover page, and the cover page is totally independent. Again, it doesn't count towards the body of the work. The cover page is your personal information, class information, and the like. But when you start the actual work, you state the title of the document at the very top of the page. Say, Swimmer as told by James Mooney. You put the title, Origin of Disease and Medicine. That's the title on the very top. Once you do that, then you follow a question and answer format. You write the question and then the answer, question, answer. Ideally, you produce about one full page per document. Not per question, but per document. So you write the title on the top and then question and answer, and then once you're through answering those questions, you're going to be writing one full page. Then you move into the second page, a new page, and you proceed in the similar fashion, writing the title of the document and then question and answer, and so on and so forth, one by one. So at the end of the report, you're going to end up with a 10-page report, a 10-page document, double-spaced. You save it Word or PDF and upload it on Blackboard. Once again, by the due date, which is July the 31st. July the 31st. If I were you, I would just start as soon as possible to avoid, delays or trying to finish this work at the last minute, because remember, it's 25% of your final grade, so you want to make sure that you're submitting a high quality work, okay, to earn the maximum amount of points. In terms of grade distribution, as you can see here, first, second, final exams, 25% each. The report is also 25% each, or 25%, I'm sorry. So everything is 25%. Everything is 25% each, again. So now, at the end, when I'm calculating grades, I want to let you know that I'm looking at each student on an individual basis, one by one. I'm looking at the grades across the term, and I take into account other factors, not just the grades that you have received from your exams and assignment, but also I take into account also extra credit assignments, for example. That's effort. Okay, so you're adding points to the exams, but for me, that's an effort, okay, that you're placing. And it has to be also kind of compensated in a certain sense. And also, I look at improvement and progress. So if I look at your grades and I see that you were improving, the first exam, let's say you made a 75, and the second exam, you made an 84, and then the final exam, you made a 91, then you submitted one extra credit assignment, but still, at the end of the day, you ended up with an 89 point grade point average. So I look at improvement, I look at progress, and I also look at effort. You made a lot of effort, both improving yourself, but also submitting extra work, and that has to be compensated. So I'll give you the final push, and I'll give you the A. So I have to see, once again, progress and effort for you to actually be compensated when you're, let's say, borderline. You're like 89, maybe you're 88.75, etc. If you are just maybe a point and a half, maybe point and a quarter away from the following letter grade, and if I see that you really, really tried, you gave your best, you were improving, etc., I'll give you the final push. Again, only when I see that. So I'm flexible in that regard. The last page of the syllabus looks at calendars, the calendar dates, important calendar dates. The first day of classes is July the 1st. July the 4th, of course, is that holiday, no classes. July the 29th is the last day to drop class or withdraw. And August the 2nd is the final exam again. And here it tells you also a tentative schedule when you're supposed to be turning in the exam. So July the 10th, you're supposed to submit the first exam. July the 22nd, the second exam. July the 31st, you submit the report. And August the 2nd, you submit the final exam. I'll be sending you reminders, however. So before July the 10th, let's say around the 7th or so, I'll send you a reminder that, okay, July the 10th is coming up. You're supposed to submit the first exam. Again, so I'll send you those reminders anyways, okay? So I hope this orientation video presentation was very helpful, that it had really explained how we're going to proceed in this class, your main duties, your responsibilities, how the exams are formatted, and so on. And if you still have any question, any doubt or concern regarding this class, this presentation, any aspect of this course, please let me know. Send me an email and I will respond as soon as possible. Again, I hope that you enjoyed this course, that you're going to find it very insightful, very inspirational and helpful in trying to understand United States history. You'll see that there's a lot of multidisciplinary also approach to history. In other words, I use also other disciplines outside of history to teach history, like psychology. I psychoanalyze a lot, historical actors. I use religious studies. You're going to learn a lot about world religions in this class. I also use philosophy. You're going to learn a lot about philosophy in this class as well. Science, technology. Again, so it's going to be very, very broad. It's not just, again, memorizing names and dates. It's going to be very analytical, as you'll see. You'll be able to see the world through the eyes of the people that lived in different points in time, to be in their shoes and be able to understand how they looked at reality as much as possible. Again, this is my style of teaching. I hope, again, you're going to find it very useful. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is all I have for you, and I'll see you in the next announcement coming up. Thank you.